with our next session, which is a knowledge integrating discussion happening amongst the great minds that will be coming up on the stage now. And the topic is leadership in the spotlight, building CEO brands and managing reputation in a digital first world. We have our key speaker joining in, Rabindra. He is a Chief Technology Officer with Indian Register of Shipping. Can we have a big round of applause for him and have him on the stage, please? Our second speaker for the session, Dipali Dilip Kuchekar. She's a Product Manager, Autonomous Ships, Systems and Novel Technologies from Lloyd's Register. Can we have a big round of applause for her and have her on the stage? So energy is less. Can we have a big, a round of applause for the wonderful session coming up? Dewantoro Bimo, he's a VP of Marketing, Branding from Telin. Can we have a big round of applause for him and have him on the stage, please? Our next speaker coming up, Telin, Nguyen. She's a head of digital and customer engagement from MNC Pharma company. Can we have a big round of applause for her and have her on the stage? And the moderator of the session, Mubashir Malik. He's a head of GRC training and communications at largest Giga project, Saudi Arabia, TV host and presenter. Can we have a big round of applause for him and have him on the stage? So over to you, Mubashir.
How are you doing? You alright? Alright, just going to say hello to my... Yes, thank you. Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Well, big round of applause for the panel. Big kind of more energy than that. Come on, guys. I know lunch was good. This is what we call a graveyard shift at the banks. You know, when we do it in the evening, almost. All right, thank you, everybody. Welcome to all my guests who have got the names right. It's Rabindra, Dipali, Dewantoro, and Caitlin, who I have the pleasure of meeting today. I'm really excited to be here on this very important topic. I'll get right into it, which is leadership in the spotlight. Building not only CEO brands, but leadership brands for your own selves in the world of digital marketing. You don't have, when we traditionally have thought of CEOs, you think, this chairman or leader of this huge company. When I was a kid, this is what I used to think, right? But now, you have a startup, you're a CEO, right? You have, you're working out of your bedroom, you're a CEO, right? And that's what it is. So something like for me, like I've never been a CEO, but I was speaking to Caitlin offline, and I said I'm actually I'm launching my own podcast, which is going to be one of the first expat podcasts in Saudi Arabia. Not one of those influencer types where, hey, come to Saudi Arabia and see what I thought, the transformation and everything. But it's actually going to be more of a personal brand, focusing on what do I think I do best and trying to bring that out with building reputation. So around that, there's a lot of risks involved. And I'm thinking from a governance perspective, and we spoke about data privacy earlier as well, how to mitigate those risks. Reputation management is really, really important. So I guess the focus of the session is actually expanding on the role of leadership and CEOs in addressing those challenges with personal brand and reputation, and addressing strategies for leveraging these digital platforms, in a way that drives thought leadership, that helps us navigate the unique challenges of maintaining a trusted reputation in a hyper-connected and digital landscape, which is really, really important because we have to resonate across diverse audiences globally if you're operating in that digital environment, not just for one local market. So without further ado, I'd like to start off with my first question, which I've jotted down over here. So excuse me if I've got a piece of paper in my hand. It should be digital, right? We're trying to be sustainable. But let's start off, and this is in no particular order. I mean, we've got mics there, so whoever would like to take questions, please go ahead. So, why do CEOs or leaders, right, need to be seen as brands themselves? And as part of that, the second part, for saving time, do we have to be online? All right, so let's should we go that on the other side? Should we take Rabindra first?
Sure.
And sorry, just a disclaimer, this is meant to be an informal conversation. I'm not going to do it like an interview style. So we're going to have a conversation. Everyone can just join in it whenever they want. There's no particular order about this. That's how I like to do things.
Thank you, Malik. It's a very nice question. When you look at the CEOs, right, two fundamental things I would like to state. One is that uh, he has got internal people and external people, right? So he need to have a kind of building brand within the organization, which is very, very important, because buying of the people, what people will trust their own employee is very, very important. And the branding internally is built based on that, yeah, technical leadership or people management. These are the core important things building the brand. Now we go to the external. External, he has to communicate the same thing. What is the vision of the organization? What is the mission of the organization? What is the purpose of organization? And that how digital first technology is helping. That's very, very important. So he need to have a vision. He need to have a strategy communicating to the outside world. I call this as the outward leadership and the inward. Both he has to play the role. And he has to create that brand outside, sharing knowledges, sharing the best practices, what is being followed, and has to communicate to the world. Why I'm saying is this, because now the days has gone where we talk about that the competitor as a competition. Now we look at it, the world trend is that the partnership is having with the competitor also. The collaboration and partnership is very, very important. So these are the couple of the points very, very important for CEO to create them. But why is important? People know about the brand, know about the CEOs, know about what he's talking, and people follow that. But please note that CEO is never over and above the organization. He is always attached to the organization. So if the brand is happening to the CEO, automatically the brand of the organization is happening. That much I'll say. I'll come back here.
Thank you, Rabindra. Quite interesting question. And I think we all are, ourselves are CEO, right? Because we represent ourselves. So I think the first and foremost important thing is what you believe in. That's for you. So that is your ethics, that's your integrity, that's your values. That's all very important. The second thing is you're working in the organization. So you are representing that organization. So it is very, very important. What is the intent of that organization? What is the values of that organization? So first is your values, your ethics. Second is that organization values. The third thing is, I think Rabindra very well mentioned about the human capital, right? It is whether internally or externally. So how do you manage your stakeholder expectations? And especially coming back to your question, Bashir, which is very much relevant in today's world, social media and in its influence. And you as a CEO, whether you need to have your personal branding and organizational branding, and what happening around the media. So I think the values and the purpose or the intent is not diluted in the noise of what the world is going through, but keeping back and reflecting what is the original intent and maintaining integrity, ethics, and authenticity is very much important. So I think that's what the branding really represents for me.
Thank you, Dipali. And Dewantoro, I'd just like to expand on that a little bit more, thinking that, in light of what's been said, I very much agree to that. Do CEOs or leaders or organizations, do they actually have a choice whether or not they actually become this public figure as per se? They probably sign up saying, hey, I'm going to leave this company, but wait a minute, I've got to be on TV, I've got to be in the news, I've got to be on social media. Do they have a choice in this day and age?
Okay, thank you. So maybe I beg to give the context. So I'm coming from a B2B company, and in B2B company, the relationship is the key driver for how a company corporate brand is perceived to be the sales at the end, the sales. So in Telin, in my company, we divide the content communication into three content pillars. The first is about the passion. Passion is about the company achievement, company news, and second is about the product or the product solution, product how we communicate the product, and the third is people. And we learned that when we post about the people, the engagement and impression is very high. It's a bit other content. So when we talk about the people, the CEO is there. So I remember how we manage the corporate branding and also a personal branding and also a product branding. Sorry, corporate branding and also a product branding. This is, I think, the main types of the branding happen in the industry right now. And when, if I'm not mistaken, Tom Peters introduced the personal branding term in 1997, we know that there is an intersection between personal branding and also the corporate branding. We call it as CEO branding, the intersection there. And yeah, based on the learn that the engagement, impression about the people, about how we communicate about the CEO in my company, it's very high compared to how we communicate technical specification or product specification. I think it's quite good to bring a CEO brand as how we build the trust of our corporate brand. And back to your question about is it option for the CEO to be a public figure? I think it's in the digital world it's not an option, but it's necessity. So CEO as a brand, as a personal, they understand, he or she understand that they are not a persona or only the persona, but they represent the company. They represent the company, how they, he or she bring the company trust and also company visibility and also company brand product awareness to the market.
Thank you, Dewantoro. So you mentioned an important topic which we had at this morning session as well, which is a theme of the day as well, kind of the trust and building the trust, not only from a brand reputation point of view, the trust from the employees, because you're the steering the ship, but also from the customers and building your brand and the trust with the customers, right? Whether it's a data breach or privacy breach or anything else. You know what? I won't. There was a question which I was thinking about. It's a bit obvious what role social media is playing, you know, in a CEO's personal brand, and we can talk about examples, good and bad, and how you mentioned at the beginning, Rabindra, about you know, no one iconic figure being above the corporation, but we see that all the time, which we'll talk about later as well. But Caitlin, I'd like to come to you, and when you're talking about reputation management and building building that trust that it involves for the employees, it's such a huge burden on someone's shoulders that one word out of place or misprint online or a viral video or something, I don't know, it could be anything these days, right? You know, it really jeopardizes the livelihoods of your entire organization, the employees and everything, right? So how do you think, you know, what are the biggest risks for any leader or any company when facing, when building their brand online? And then I'd like to sort of tease into a bit more from a healthcare and pharmaceutical perspective, because you lead Abbott laboratories in the region, correct? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. It's a really important one, right? So in this day and age, we talk about reputational risks, and on the flip side of that is the opportunities, right? Especially in this digital age, for leaders, for C-suite, for CEOs to really build. And I think it's really about, you know, being proactive. And you asked an earlier question, is it an option? I really think, like, you know, as some of the panelists were saying, it's not really much of an option, but there are nuances within industries, right? If you are, you know, the leader of a publicly traded company, there are certain, you know, expectations. Even if you're not, your customers or the other stakeholders, there's this, you know, sort of evolving expectation that you present yourself, you know, in such a way, and you share certain information, and this, depending on if it's thought leadership or if it's industry subject matter, or if it's something more social and environmental. So all of these sort of expectations are at play. And so I think for a leader, it's really important to be very clear and very intentional. And I think, you know, you were talking about values, right? really, really important to have the values aligned, between your personal self and, what it is that you're projecting out there. So I see it as, opportunities and risks on both sides. And I think in the digital space with social media, so many different platforms proliferating out there, being intentional and being very organized, I think this is the word I'm looking for, in terms of how you show up. So either you do it yourself or you have your teams behind you to help you, but it is something that you cannot ignore.
Indeed, and leading on to my second part of the question, because you work in the healthcare industry, and as you said, leading Abbott, it gives an extra challenge because you're not only dealing with the livelihoods of the organization, but also the people, the customers,
The
with
general public,
pharmaceutical, the healthcare, all these things that we have at healthcare. COVID's a massive example, vaccines, whatnot. So how do we deal with that and there's so much misinformation online and things like that?
Yeah, in healthcare, in pharma especially, right? So really, public health, the public safety, that's all really, really important. We are a highly regulated industry, right? There's this notion of regulations, compliance. It's something that's it's quite restrictive. It's something that we take very seriously. So I think in that regard, it's being very clear to all the different stakeholders in the ecosystem, right? Ranging from the regulatory folks to legal to politics, right? In this space. So it becomes more complex, right? Especially sort of in our industry. And so really, the key is to be very specific and very, I mentioned before, very organized about how it is that you want to protect yourself out there. Topics like cybersecurity, topics like sustainability, right? Whilst that's not directly related to public health and safety, it is still something that we've seen as sort of rising expectations amongst the stakeholder groups.
Amazing, thank you, Katie. Rabindra, tell me how should one CEO or leader or company respond to a reputation crisis in today's fast-moving digital landscape? What would you say would be your ultimate tip?
First of all, I echo what Dipali said about the trust and the purpose is very, very important, right? Reputation building is very, very important. That's what the brand starts creating for your individual at the company, right? Let me put in my scenario, right? I joined this organization, Indian Register of Shipping, just 1 year back, and I'm joined as a CTO, and I have joined here for a purpose. And purpose is that how this maritime sector or our organization can go prepare for going a journey, building a journey for digital transformation. That's right. So I'm new to this organization, but if you go back 32 years, over 33 decades, I have worked with the Tata leadership, and all the technology we talk about today, we started 3 decades back, when hardly few people were talking about digital, that there's a rise, and we proved, implemented, and deployed. So that's where we build the brand over the streets and work for the customer here. So here, the reputation is very, very important, because this I set my base to join this organization, my reputation. But my reputation was good in some specific sector, right? Now I have come to the shipping sector. In terms of the domain, in terms of the technology, is nowhere. So when I write something in the public forum or in outside, people appreciate. So there I have to be very careful what I write about the maritime. What the vision I'm setting is to be aligned with respect to the maritime. This is very, very important. So what here it plays a role, I took initiative, right? First, my brand reputation is internal to my customer, right? Who am I? Our internal employee, right? So I have to build that to the reputation inside. They need to know that person is really capable, has got a proven track record. So we have to do the kind of change management within our organization, right? So I'm talking with the organization change management where we prove it. When internally prove it, I don't need to rather prove it, but need to be kind of horizontally and vertically deployed. Then we go back. So it's very, very important. The reputation is very, very important. How we build it, how we connect with the outside, how we connect with the inside is really, really important. That's the way I adopt and follow, and is helping us.
And thank you, Rabindra. What I would like to ask next is, do you really feel that sometimes if a CEO or a leader's personality does not match at all with the organization, or they come from different backgrounds, sometimes you'll see a head of finance who's done really well in transforming a company, let's say a car company or whatever, right? And then another car company hires that person as a CEO, right? He's good at finance, and he's turned around the financial side. Essentially, that's what you want the CEO to make a company more profitable. But if the personality doesn't match, and their reputation precedes them, let's say, right? And it's not, then how does that affect the online strategy? How would you like to?
So I think, see, when you are in the leadership position, right, you have the accountability and responsibility. And also it is very important to understand the importance of every individual working in this organization. So it is a shared goal what we all have. So as I said, you may have your personal values, but also you would have the organizational values, because you may have a vision, you may have strategy, you may have a roadmap, and then there is whole noise goes around where you need to move around working towards your strategy, but your values will be the beacon which will hold everything. So I think in the case, suppose you may have conflicts within the organization with one particular entity or particular person, it is important to see the intent of what that particular individual is doing and the contribution it is for your larger goal or the purpose of the organization and how it has been carried out. So and that is what the leadership position is all about. It is about rising above your personal agendas or your personal likes and dislikes.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Look, it's all about aligning whether or not how much should a personal brand align with the corporate brand, right? It's not always necessary, but it's sometimes it's the best way to go about it. Good, exactly.
Can I add something?
Yes, please, of course.
What Dipali said, I'll just, so there, what she mentioned about, the role of the leader become very, very important. What process and system he is going to build. The organization should be driven by the process system is built. If you build that, then automatically the kind of the gaps or the transparency will improve. People will come collaborate together with the shared vision of the organization.
Yeah.
So process-driven organization is always that's the strategy,
Yes.
the part of the CEO. Right?
Indeed. No, very good. And Dewantoro, tell me if you, in the day of digital backlashes, where, as I said, something can just go viral and it can really spiral out of control. Okay, if things aren't done about it. Sometimes it's good to. I used to, one of the organizations I used to work for, I said, we need to send out a communication quickly, swiftly, deal with it, end of story. Sometimes silence could also be a good strategy, right? There's a famous saying in the British royal family that don't explain, don't complain. It's what the former queen who passed away recently, she used to say that all the time. But again, it's not always great. We've seen how that also does not work. But can silence sometimes be a good strategy? Because sometimes it could be, right? So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yes, agree. Silence can be a good strategy, but it only works for several cases. We work for silence only for buying time,
Yeah.
but at the end we need to action because people will see that silence or still buying time can be denial that that's something wrong with our company. Yeah, and yeah, audience will see, oh, he or she don't care, but it doesn't care about this situation, this problem. So I think at the end, the strategy is how we can react and give react with swift, with accurate, and I think authenticity is the key. How we can react with a swift and with a right time at with the right message about the situation.
Maybe just to add a bit about that one, it's really very good question. I think silence is human, is understandable, it's depending on the topic, and sometimes it's like, we're not able to respond right away. But I agree with you that if you remain silent, you start to spark a lot of speculation and interpretations that may not be favorable, etc. So what we've seen is leaders who really step up and have an immediate response, relatively immediate response. It doesn't have to be immediate. But then it doesn't stop there. CEOs can continue that communication program, let's put it that way, right? Where they have the immediate response, they'll follow through with whatever the resolution is, and then thereon after, they'll continue to communicate how things are going, what they themselves are learning, show a little bit of human vulnerability in that regard as well, if it was sort of a huge mistake of some sort, right? I think time and time again we've seen leaders show some sort of a response and then just disappear, whereas the good ones are the ones who continue to engage with the different stakeholders in their ecosystem, and it's a very almost personalized approach depending on the different stakeholder groups, right? And it shows, I think you mentioned it, authenticity, right? I think that's really important. I think you can tell when sort of a blurb or a speech is not authentic. So being authentic about it and being consistent and having a program of communication.
Absolutely, I mean, especially if you've got, it depends on the size of the organization, right? If you've got a whole team of like 200 to 300 corporate comms team, crisis management, to build that resilience, then I guess you can move pretty swiftly. Sometimes it can be more challenging on deciding how to move forward. But then, with those larger corporations, like as I said, some of the banks that I work for in the UK, when there was a scandal or a breach, you'd see the CEO, or the UK CEO of that bank on daylight television, Good Morning Television, every single day, giving answers to the public because of, people are worried about their money or something like that. What's going to happen if there's a takeover happening or there's a scandal or some rumor that's going around. In social media, it's more difficult. So the next question, and again, anyone can take this question, moving on to a more general conversation. The last 2 points I'd like to make is around the deep fakes in AI. How can you not talk about AI? How would one respond? Because you see these deep fake videos, and if you have that about, and I'm sure that there are about companies and brands, could be about healthcare, which is even more frightening, about a rumor about some medication or something like that. But how do we deal with that? I mean, should the companies now have? Well, I always say that they should have the AI detection systems in place, but how in the day of deep fakes and AI on social media, things going viral so quickly, if something is being sent out on behalf of somebody who's not that somebody, and if that somebody happens to be a CEO, which then affects the stock market prices if you're public listed, there's huge consequences of things spiraling out of control. So how do we validate it? How do we navigate that? It's open to anyone who likes.
It's a good question, Malik.
Sorry, could we just have some silence on the floor? Sorry, it's.
So it's a good question. If you look at that, how the communication is made or the branding is good outside the organization, the professional way of communication, the press releases happen. We have got authenticated, websited of the organization, from there we publish, and there is social media handler and the account through which is being published. So there are no chance of that such kind of things are being communicated. But the important is that what CEO has got the audience. So take the example of the LinkedIn, which is the professional media. The professional accounts are there through which is being communicated. So people, the follower follows the CEO. And why we follow the CEOs? Because he looks that what is the ongoing innovative works are happening, what the technology is emerging, how the technology adoptions are happening, and how their future roadmap is there. That's what the things is being followed. That's why the brand building comes in play, right? That gives the kind of trigger to the follower to know about it, that build their skill, get the prepared and apply it, right? So that's kind of I've seen an organization like OEM. He doesn't go and approach for the people for the kind of the job. People approach them that yes, that I wanted to join, and these are the values I am going to create to add your the brand value. So there are the professional way of the communication, and that should be adopted to be followed. That will enhance the.
Yeah, very excellent. And leading on from that, it's something which both of you actually touched on earlier. Is what happens when, good or bad, if a CEO's personal brand then becomes bigger than the company. Because remember you said earlier that as long as the company comes first, but we see lots of instances, and we put the AI generated images aside because sometimes you get the personal brands to generate AI images of themselves to be put out. Sometimes you get that as well. But what happens when the personal brand becomes bigger than the company brand? We can have several examples as well, right? Especially in the US.
So I think it's, and that, see, when your personal brand becomes bigger than the company, that means first of all, are you really a leader which is representing the intention of the company?
But what if you
that's
started
the
the company, right?
Yeah.
It's your company,
So-
you are that firm.
Yeah, so what happens is that is where the reputation comes in place, right? Because your brand has gone up because of the reputation and the work you have done, whether it's a bad work or it's a good work, doesn't really matter. And that's where the reputation and the brand and the authenticity, all of that comes in picture. So it is very necessary to have the reflection of that, and I think communication is is a key important thing. Like silence cannot work in all the situation, right? And that is where the continuous communication. Also the reputation is because if you have a good reputation, if you have you as a trusted personality or a trusted company has already been out there, the people who have been loyal to you as your customers, as your stakeholders, definitely will revert back to you to understand the authenticity of that. So the branding going above and beyond the company, that can be the damaging or can be encouraging. In both the situation, if something goes wrong within the company because of some circumstance here, your brand as a reputation, as a good reputation, definitely your loyal stakeholders will come back and communicate with you, and vice versa. So it is really very important to have the authenticity, purpose, values.
I think I love this question because I was just thinking about it this morning. It's interesting because the dynamic between the personal brand and the corporate brand, right? And your question is, what happens if it's bigger in terms of better, or bigger in terms of not so good? Depends, right? So if we take the example, this very, very real example of a certain individual, whose brand is known for its electrical vehicle, so you wonder if there's some sort of a self-correction, whereas, this personal brand of his became really, front and center, very big, negative almost, right? And it has had a negative impact on the business side, right? With the backlash, with the consumer, with the share price, with everything, right? So you wonder now.
Personal views or personal brand?
The company,
The company.
right? The company, and the personal as well, right? So overall, so you sort of have to wonder and ask yourself, what sort of shifts or so-called corrections will take place over the next few weeks, months, years, right? So this is a very interesting point, and this is the founder of the company, right?
Yeah, but tell me, let's say I'm the founder. Let's say I'm the founder of that company. Yeah, I created this company. I'm the reason why all of you work for this company. Why you have jobs right now. I am the reason why, X million amount of people are now driving a certain car, and using the benefit of it. So what if I have certain views or whatever? It's my thing. I'm the reason why this thing exists, right? You'd still be, 2 decades back.
I did, yeah, right. So can I say? You want to?
You go ahead.
So no, Malik, what happens? Then we need to segregate the industry, right? Typically, where it happens, if we go to the founder and CEO of medium and small enterprises, where these things matters, right? People joins with the person because he's there, because he's the owner, he takes all decisions. So there is a challenge. But you go to the bigger OEMs, right? So that kind of situation will not find. The personal branding and the organization goes together hands on hand. Both happens together. People follow the brand or follow the individual, the leader or CEOs, but he is connected with the organization. Now we see how the changes happening last few years. We might have not seen it, we have not seen is that CEO coming and he's sharing his thoughts inside. In this last few years it has happened. CEO comes, he writes the comment, he writes the motivate his follower and the customer. That's where the interaction comes. And it goes further, whether he moves out of this organization to another, but will keep people connect with the brand, individual, and connect with the organization. That's what is happening. Right?
No, absolutely. So the last part of my question, we would move on to: do you think do employees and stakeholders and customers expect the leaders, CEOs, to take, and the companies themselves? This is very controversial, but I have to put this out here with a disclaimer that all our views are personal views. Do they expect the CEOs, leaders, and companies to take stand on social and political issues? Is there an expectation? And given that we're in that digital world, should we put those things out there? Whether there's companies taking a stance on political situations, wars, campaigns, political opponents, elections, things like that. Is there an expectation, and then what happens as a result?
Maybe I just want to quickly, geopolitical situation affects everyone. We are in a very connected world. So if we see that will not impact, that means we are living in isolation.
Yeah.
We are in the real world scenarios. So geopolitical situation or current tariff, right? It is affecting everyone. It is affecting the complete supply chain, right? So if we are saying that it is not going to impact, it is going to impact. And I think it is very important that in today's world, when the social media is so strong, where having the transparency in terms of the communication is the key. Silence cannot be always played very well. So coming back to your, as you said, even though you don't want to have personal view, but you are still asking.
But is it,
right?
Yeah.
So I am saying that I think that is the power of human, which we have to understand and we have to valuing that. So even though we have AI world, or whether we are talking about social media or brand, we cannot undermine the importance of the human and the voice of human.
Dewantoro, do you think there's an expectation? Thank you, Dipali. Do you think there's an expectation from employees of the company for someone to speak out on such issues on the digital platforms or social media?
Okay, I think this answer. So I think leaders cannot say everything about everything.
Yeah.
So we need a certain context about that related to the company itself, the company development or company context. So like in Telin, in my company, I think leaders have to talk about the digital literacy,
Yes.
something like that, or cybersecurity, something like that. Some that related to the political issues, something related to the social issues, but related to the company itself, how we have a stand about the social issues, and how the company helps
Yes.
this issue to help people in, like I say, in digital literacy or in the cybersecurity. So I think it's in selected certain contexts, in selected topics for issues.
Thank you, Dewantoro. I'd like to thank the rest of my panel as well, and the audience. And last minute we have for any, I guess, questions. So there's one question I'd like to pose to the audience before we take questions. One question I'd like to pose to the audience. I want a show of hands that if, based on the conversation that we've had, if you're a regular buyer of a part of a company, whether it's a car, whether it's a Pepsi, Coke, a drink, anything, whatever it is, right? Or a mobile phone. If you did not like the CEO of that company, you didn't agree with his or her political views or how they act on social media or digitally, would that affect your decision to buy their product? So show of hands, yes. No. I think the majority seems a bit no, so they would still buy whether or not they like, still buy the what? Yeah. All right, okay, great, excellent. So I think we're sort of running out of time. We had such a great discussion. I'd like to thank the panel. We're just going to have 2 minutes of questions, so if, yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question for the team. I think very insightful discussion, and it actually kind of gives a lot of points for, let's say, upcoming CEOs, who wants to lead the team. My question here is that, as a CEO, whether you are from a large corp, where you have to answer to the shareholders, or to a medium or small enterprises where you have to worry about how to pay to your vendors, pay to your salaries, right? How do you make sure that brand building as well as the financial aspect, revenue, profit, goes together? And what suggestions or comments you want to give it to the upcoming CEOs? How do you make sure that you balance both, or what is more important?
Can I answer? Yes, please.
It's fantastic questions, and this is what I have learned in the last 3 decades, right? And for my great leader, Mr. Ratan Tata and all we do the business, we do the work, but the first human comes first, right? So we need to take care of the people, to take care of them, the good time or bad time. That's why our people. So that's very, very important over and on. Second, yes, right, we do the business, so we need to have a kind of operational efficiency. Profit and loss has to be maintained, and that's where the business grows. So we track each and every aspects at the organization level, at the project level, individual level, and track it, and make sure that what projects we work is the delivery guide delivers it, and what promises made by the sales team achieved through that. So both goes together.
Okay, next question, please.
Wonderful discussion. I really loved and great questions there. So what I want to ask is, being an executive coach, while I work with a lot of CEOs, and I do see that vulnerability is so important, right? So we do see a personal brand of CEO is so important, and that brand can either somewhere make or shape the organization or take it away. So my question to the panel is, while vulnerability is important because we do want authentic leaders, then how can a CEO manage a balance between vulnerability and visibility while maintaining the credibility of organization? Thank you.
I can try to have a stab at that. So when you were asking your question, you made me think of the CEO of the brand Spanx, right? Because she has been sharing the narrative, her story, right? And it's all about her humble beginnings, and she was not afraid to show her vulnerability. And I think this panel was talking about the authenticity of it. We felt that, wow, this is really who she was. This was her experience, really palpable, a very human story, and she owned it, right? So I think the key thing there for her, at least in this example, is that she really fully embraced it, built it as part of her story, as part of her brand, encouraging other female entrepreneurs, female leaders, and so that I think is a very nice blend, is a very nice example.
Just want to give some background of myself. So I am electrical engineer in a maritime industry, highly dominated by rates, right? And then it is highly commercial. The client wants the very cheap solutions with everything can be achieved. So I think when we are in the highly commercial world, and then when we want to maintain the authenticities or the values, it is very important. I mean, I'm insisting on the transparent communication. So there will be an instances where you will be caught up between why something has been done and why somebody's expectations might be different. And I think having that one-to-one conversation in a transparent manner by giving the reason of why and what would be the next course of action, so that both the bridges can be met, or at least can have some mutual understanding. I think that is very important, because we are in today's world where busy is a buzzword, And as a CEO, because you are in a leadership position, your job is not just about the branding of the company, but ensuring the people who are working within the companies, that is what your capital. So you have to understand that capital is not diluted. So
Thank you so much, Dipali.
So
Thank you.
once that, I just have a comment, and that's beautifully said. That's why, these days, the CEO in the digital world is said by Chief Energy Officer, and we say Chief Influence Officer.
Yeah.
So that's why CIO
Yes.
was called as Chief. Thank you.
Yes.
So what I was trying to say is it's beautifully said, and that's why in the digital world there is a new definition of CEO and CIO. It is like Chief Energy Officer, because as rightly said by the panel, and I really love the way you connected on. I would have wished you could have gone a little bit deeper on there, that alignment. How important it is to align the CEO brand with the vis-a-vis the organization brand. And interestingly, these days, if you look at the organizations, they are going to hire the CEO who may not really match the brand's, features, because they want to infuse a new thing. And that's why Chief Energy Officer, because they are maintaining a lot of energy within the organization and outside, as well as Chief Influence Officer, because they are continuously influencing it. So thank you so much.
Appreciate
Really
it.
enjoyed
Thank
it.
you very much, everyone. I really appreciate it. Round of applause for the panel, please.
Thank you so much for a wonderful session, and I think it's a learning session for me also, being the CEO of DigitalConfex. So, any one quick advice for the upcoming CEOs in the industry? Any one advice for the upcoming CEOs like me, or like anyone coming up in startup?
empathy, not just the buzzword. You must feel exactly what the other person is feeling. Live the journey with him in that moment of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Excellent.
It's very, very important. That's the first priority, empathy, right?
Yeah.
That's very right. And we do that and we adopt it, right? Thank you.
All right.
Come on, guys, huge round of applause for the panelists. And can we have a good photo?
Okay, and then look here, please. Look here. Ready, 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more photo.
Thank you so much.
For panelists, so first we have Rabindra sir.
Yeah. Got it. All right. Thank you. Rabindra, well done.
Come on, guys, huge round of applause for Rabindra.
Okay, look here. All right, ready? Look here, 3, 2, 1. Okay, video.
Next we have Kathleen. Come on, guys, huge round of applause for Kathleen.
Okay, look here, please. Ready, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Next we have Dewantoro Bimo. Come on, guys, huge round of applause for Dewantoro.
Okay, look here. Look here, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
So next we have Dipali, Dilip, Kuchekar. Come on, guys, huge round of applause for Dipali.
Okay, you ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, got it.
And for the wonderful moderator of this session, we have Experimental Yacht Cruise in Dubai by Champions Lagoon.
Oh, that's very kind.
Come on, guys, huge round of applause for Mubashir.
Okay, great. 3, 2, 1, smile.
That's good.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you very much.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm just going to run to my car.
Alright, so thank you to all key speakers for this wonderful session of leadership in the small